Have you ever wondered what the world was like before the year 01010101, when there were neither calendars nor clocks? How did people measure time back then? How did they know when to sow which crop or when to harvest it? There was a time in human history when there were no dates, no years, no months on this earth. Yet, some people knew which day was auspicious and which was the most dreadful. Have you ever thought about why a year in the calendar consists of exactly 365 days? And why there are only 12 months in a year? The answer to this question isn't so simple, because it lies hidden in the roots of science and ancient civilizations. In this video, we'll travel far back in time, to a place where there were no calendars, no dates, where time wasn't seen but felt. Because this isn't just a story of time, it's the story of human thought, imagination, and existence. And a warning. What you're about to learn in this video might completely change the way you think about time today. There's a question that neither historians nor scientists have a complete answer to. The question isn't when humans invented the clock. The question is, how did time move when there were no clocks? Imagine waking up in a world where there are no dates, no Mondays, no New Year, no clocks, no calendars. You don't know what day it is or even what year it is. What would such a world feel like? How would you plan a journey or a meeting? When would you celebrate your birthday? When would you celebrate the New Year? How would you decide when to celebrate a festival? Yet, when you look at the people around you, you see them living, sowing crops in the fields, making predictions about the future, setting dates for wars. The question arises, before January 1st, 01 even existed, how did humans understand time? They didn't have digital clocks, yet they somehow knew when to celebrate which festival. Did they talk to the stars, or was there some mysterious method through which they could grasp time? Some believe our ancestors had hidden knowledge that was lost over time. Can we rediscover that knowledge? Have you ever felt that the ticking of a clock is actually a chain on your soul? We think we measure time, but isn't it true that time measures us? We believe time began on January 1st, 01. But that was merely the moment humans tried to bind it. In reality, time had been breathing long before that, but no one knew its language. Thousands of years ago, when humans looked up at the sky, they noticed changes. Like the moon growing smaller or larger each night, the sun rising in one direction and setting in another during the day, or the positions of the stars shifting at night. These changes in the sky were nothing but the sensation of time. For the first time, those people tried to recognize and understand time. But the question was, how could they capture this time? They needed a method to touch it, to stabilize it, to live according to it. And that's where the story of the first human time machine began, which we today call a clock. It wasn't a metal clock or a compass. It was merely stones. You might be wondering how stones could measure time, but the answer is even stranger. Ancient civilizations erected massive stones, not aligned in any random direction but according to the shadow of the sun. Every day, the sun rose at a different angle. And as days passed, the shadows of the stones shifted too. But on one specific day of the year, the shadow fell exactly where those thousands of kilogram stones were placed. What would you call this? What would you call this? A coincidence? Or the key to some mystery? Britain's Stonehenge is the world's most famous ancient calendar through which they tried to measure time. On an open piece of land in Britain stand massive stones arranged in a circle, not placed randomly but with great thought. Every year, on June 21st, the sun rises exactly between those stones, and on December 21st, it sets there. This was their method of measuring seasons and time. No clocks, no calendars, just the sun and stones. According to a 2020-22 study, the large stones at Stonehenge might represent the 365 days of the year, much like our modern calendar. Each stone might signify a day or a week. Perhaps these stones were their timekeeping symbols. So, the next time you see pictures of Stonehenge, don't think of it as just a structure of stones. It's an ancient scientific marvel, a remarkable calendar that captured time in stones. But did you know Question now is, in ancient times, even stones spoke the language of time. But is that language still alive today, or have we lost that knowledge? Have we now become reliant only on machines? When ancient humans first looked at the sky, they realized something changed every day. Every night, the moon took on a new form, from a thin crescent to a glowing orb and then slowly fading away. This change wasn't just beauty, it was the first sign of time. Thousands of years ago, when there were no clocks or dates, humans adopted the moon as a tool to measure time. The moon's 29-day cycle, from new moon to full moon to full moon and back to new moon, became the world's first calendar, called the lunar calendar. In India, the panchang system's concepts like tithi and paksha were tied to the moon's movement. This calendar wasn't just for measuring time. It became the foundation of social, religious, and agricultural life. Festivals, fasts, and marriages were all decided based on the moon. But apart from the moon, another celestial force indicated time: the sun. The sun's cycle, roughly 365 days long, was steady and precise. That's why Egyptian and Roman civilizations adopted the solar calendar. The question arises. On one hand, the moon completed its cycle in 29 days, while on the other, the sun took about 365 days to complete a cycle of seasons. So, which calendar was more natural? But India struck a balance between the two, creating a calendar that combined both lunar and solar cycles called the lunar solar calendar. In this calendar, an extra month is added every 32 and a half months to align the lunar year with the solar year. In this calendar, an extra month is added every 32 and a half months to align the lunar year with the solar year. Ancient scholars used astronomical calculations to understand this. Today, for global trade and technology, a solar-based calendar is necessary. But our soul and culture still lean toward the moon. That's why festivals like Holi and Diwali are still determined by lunar dates. While Western civilizations struggled with years, months, and dates, Indian sages measured time in yugas. They knew time wasn't just a line, but a cycle. To understand this cycle, they created vedanga jyotisha. It wasn't just an astrological text, it was a scientific explanation of time. The Earth's motion, the sun's position, the moon's phases, the movement of planets. All were combined to form a complex but precise system. These calculations were so accurate that modern science later verified them. In ancient India, sages didn't see time as just a moment. They understood it as a flow of energy. Today, when we look at a clock, we see a number. But when they looked at the sky, they saw a cycle that reflected the rhythm of life, death, and rebirth. Today, every year begins with fireworks. On January 1st, we celebrate, count down, and believe time has started a new cycle, which we call the New Year. But have you ever wondered where this date came from? In 46 BCE, 46 years before January 1st, 01, Julius Caesar noticed that the Roman calendar was in chaos. Agricultural timings were going awry. Religious events were getting disrupted. To solve this, he introduced a new calendar called the Julian calendar, with 365 days and a leap year added every 4 years. But one question remained. Where does this calendar story begin? Interestingly, there was never a year 0. It went straight to 1 CE, January 1st, 01, considered the start of the Julian calendar, said to be the birth year of Jesus Christ. January was deemed the first month of the year in this calendar. But historical records suggest Jesus might have been born 4 to 6 years before this calendar's launch. So, was this just a religious belief turned into the world's calendar? For centuries, the Julian calendar continued, but over 1,500 years, it developed a 10-day discrepancy. There was a need to reform it. Pope Gregory XIII introduced the Gregorian calendar, and in October 1582, he removed 10 days from history. October 4th was followed directly by October 15th. Since then, we've been using this calendar. Now, let's understand why But instead of adding one day, an entire month is added. Today, with modern technology, we can understand these events well. But imagine, our ancestors did this thousands of years ago without any modern technology. This shows how profound their astronomical knowledge was. Time, which was once the heartbeat of the universe for sages, has now become a number recorded on paper. We've bounded so much that we've forgotten that time flows more from within than from outside. So, the next time you look at a clock or write New Year on January 1st in a calendar, pause for a moment and think, are you truly feeling time? Or have you just become part of someone else's system? Time never began, and perhaps it will never end. Its true language is still hidden in the stars, in the moon's movement, in the sun's warmth, and in your heartbeats. January 1st, 01 was just a date, not a new calendar. India's panchang was created thousands of years before the Julian calendar and is as accurate today as it was then. The story of time was running before January 1st, 01, and it's still running today. The question is, can you hear it? Or have you gotten lost in trying to bind it? Or are you too waiting for your time to come? Your time will come.